What if I told you that the strangest night of my life began on the most ordinary highway in the middle of America? A long stretch of road cutting through fields and forests, where the silence of the night feels so complete that every sound, even the hum of your own car engine, becomes amplified. It was the kind of drive where nothing should happen, and yet everything changed in those few hours. I was behind the wheel heading back from a late business trip, somewhere in rural Kentucky, far away from city lights, far away from people, and I swear to you that what I saw that night was not human, was not from this earth, and it still keeps me awake when the dark settles in. The first sign came in the form of light. Not headlights, not planes, but a single white sphere hovering low over the horizon. At first I thought it was a tower light, maybe even a reflection off my windshield, but then it moved in a way no aircraft I've ever seen could. It darted to the left, then shot upward with an impossible acceleration, then stopped dead, motionless, as if gravity had no hold over it. I slowed the car, rolled down the window, and listened. The night was silent, too silent, not even the chirp of insects. And the light was just there, pulsing faintly, almost as if it were breathing. Something in me knew I should keep driving, ignore it, but curiosity burned hotter than fear. I pulled over to the shoulder, turned off the engine, and stepped out. The gravel crunched under my shoes. The air felt heavier than it had a minute ago, and the light seemed closer now, brighter, like it had noticed me noticing it. For several minutes I stood frozen, just watching. The object was smooth, round, glowing with a kind of brilliance that didn't sting the eyes, more like moonlight, but alive. Then, without warning, it dropped down lower, silently, no wind, no sound, until it hovered just above the tree line, maybe 200 yards away. My pulse hammered. Every instinct screamed to get back in the car and drive away, but my legs refused to move. And then came the second sign. A low vibration that wasn't sound exactly, but something deeper, something that resonated in my chest, in my bones. It was like being inside a giant bell after it's been struck. I grabbed the car door to steady myself, and that's when I realized the light wasn't just hovering, it was scanning. A faint beam, almost invisible, swept across the road, the trees, the fields. When it passed over me, the vibration surged, and I felt my skin prickle as if static electricity had charged the air. The moment it touched me, I swear I heard a thought that wasn't mine, clear but wordless, like a question forming without language. The beam lingered for a second longer and then vanished. The sphere remained still, watching me, or at least that's how it felt. And then, as if satisfied, it began to split. The single glowing orb separated into three smaller ones, each the size of a basketball, and they arranged themselves into a perfect triangle above the trees. That was when the fear finally overwhelmed me. I stumbled back into the car, slammed the door shut, turned the ignition, but nothing happened. The engine was dead, the dashboard dark, every electronic thing inside silent. Panic clawed at me, but outside the lights didn't move closer. They just hovered, waiting. I tried my phone, but the screen wouldn't turn on. I was trapped in silence, surrounded by this impossible phenomenon. And then the strangest thing yet happened. The car clock, which had been frozen, blinked back to life. But instead of the time, it displayed a sequence of numbers I didn't understand. 3 digits, pause, then another 3, and then again. Coordinates, maybe, or something else. My breath fogged the glass as I stared at the display, and when I looked back outside, the triangle of lights began to spin slowly, almost hypnotically, casting shifting shadows across the ground. For the first time in my life, I felt the undeniable certainty that I was being studied, examined by something not of this world, something intelligent. I wanted to scream, but no sound left my throat. And then, all at once, the lights shot upward into the sky at a speed that defied comprehension and vanished, leaving only the faint hum of crickets returning, as if nothing had ever been there. My car engine roared back to life on its own, and the phone lit up with full battery. But the numbers on the clock remained, burned into the display, until I turned the car off again hours later. That night, I didn't just see a UFO. I felt it, and I believe it left me with something I still don't fully understand. The drive after that moment was unlike anything I had ever experienced because even though the road was the same, the night was the same, I wasn't the same anymore. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. My eyes darted to the mirrors every few seconds expecting to see the lights return, but the sky remained empty, star-filled, ordinary in every way except for the memory seared into me. The numbers on the car clock wouldn't leave my mind, 3 digits at a time, pulsing in rhythm like coordinates on a map. I repeated them aloud over and over, afraid that if I didn't, they would disappear forever. When I finally reached a small roadside diner around dawn, my nerves were so raw I almost convinced myself it had been a hallucination brought on by fatigue. But then something strange happened. I pulled into the lot, shut off the engine, and when I checked the car clock again, the numbers were gone, replaced with the correct local time, as if nothing had ever happened. Yet in my head they were still there, etched with absolute clarity. Inside the diner, I tried to calm myself with coffee. A trucker at the counter was talking about a strange power outage the previous night, how radios and CB channels had gone silent for miles around. He laughed it off as a storm interference, but there hadn't been a storm. I knew that silence. I had felt it pressed down like a weight. I wanted to speak, to tell someone what I had seen, but when the words rose in my throat, something stopped me. A kind of pressure, almost like a thought that wasn't mine, whispering no. So I stayed quiet, sipping coffee, staring at the condensation sliding down the glass, pretending to listen. By the time I got home, the sun was high, and everything looked so painfully normal that the night before seemed like a dream. But that's when the second phase began. Over the next several days, I started noticing odd things. Electronics around me behaved strangely. Lamps flickering, my phone screen freezing, radios catching static whenever I walked into a room. At first I thought it was coincidence, faulty wiring, anything logical, but then came the dreams. Vivid, almost cinematic dreams of landscapes I had never seen before. Towering cliffs of a purple stone, skies that shimmered in shades no artist's palette could replicate, oceans that glowed with their own light. And in every dream, always in the distance, I could see 3 orbs arranged in a triangle, waiting. One morning I woke with those same coordinates burning in my mind again. But this time they weren't just numbers. They came with an overwhelming urge, a pull so strong it felt less like a thought and more like a command. I resisted it for days, telling myself I was imagining things, but the pull grew stronger until I finally gave in. I typed the sequence into an online map and felt my stomach twist when I saw the location. A patch of woodland deep in Kentucky, not far from where I had first encountered the lights. It was an unremarkable spot on the satellite image, nothing but trees and shadow. But the moment I saw it, a wave of recognition washed over me, like I already knew that place, like I had been there in my dreams. I couldn't ignore it. The following weekend I drove back out, half terrified, half desperate for answers. The closer I got, the heavier the air felt, that same pressure I had felt on the road before. My phone lost signal miles before the destination. The forest swallowed the road until only a narrow dirt track remained. I parked, stepped out, and for a long moment nothing happened. Just trees, leaves rustling in the wind, the ordinary smells of soil and pine. But then I noticed something unnatural, the silence again. No birdsong, no insects, nothing but my own breathing. I followed the GPS arrow until it led me to a small clearing, perfectly circular, as if the trees had been pushed outward by something massive. The ground was scorched in patterns too precise to be random, faint rings spiraling outward from the center. My heart pounded. I knew I was standing exactly where they had been, where the craft had hovered. And then, without warning, it began again. The vibration, low and bone deep, rising from the earth itself. The hairs on my arms lifted, the static charge filling the air. A light flickered between the trees, faint at first, then brighter, moving with deliberate intent. 3 orbs emerged, the same perfect triangle, hovering soundlessly above the clearing. My breath caught. I should have run, but my body wouldn't obey. Instead, I stepped closer, drawn like a moth to flame. The lights pulsed in unison, and once again that feeling washed over me. The sense of being examined, studied, not with eyes, but with something deeper. Thoughts that weren't mine crowded my head, fragments of images too fast to process. Faces, stars, vast corridors filled with light. And then a message, clear and undeniable, though no words were spoken. You are not alone. Those words, or rather that feeling translated into words inside my mind, froze me more than the sight of the lights themselves. You are not alone. It wasn't a voice, it wasn't sound. It was certainty, a message burned straight into my thoughts without language, and it carried weight, like it wasn't just a statement, but a truth I could no longer deny. My knees weakened and I sank onto the scorched earth of the clearing, staring up at the three orbs as they pulsed brighter and brighter, each heartbeat of light synchronized with my own racing pulse. I wanted to ask questions. Why me? What do you want? What are you? But before I could even form them, I realized they already knew. Images filled my mind in rapid flashes, too fast to hold on to, but fragments stuck. A planet fractured by storms of fire. Beings tall and graceful with skin like liquid silver. Vast ships drifting in silence, not in triumph, but in exile. I understood without understanding, felt without truly seeing, that they were not conquerors, not here to invade, but travelers, wanderers who had lost something unimaginable and now searched for a place to survive. The triangle shifted formation, the three lights weaving around each other until they merged again into a single glowing sphere that descended slowly, closer, closer, until it hovered barely 20 feet above me. The vibration intensified, yet it wasn't painful. It was like standing in the presence of something far beyond me, something immense yet restrained. My hair whipped upward as though gravity itself was bending around the craft. I reached out instinctively, my hand trembling, and though the sphere never touched me, I felt heat radiating from it, not burning but warm, enveloping, almost comforting. And then came the second message, clearer than the first. Remember. The word detonated in my thoughts, carrying an ocean of meaning I couldn't fully hold. Remember what? My life. Humanity? Some forgotten connection? I wanted to protest, to demand clarity, but before I could, the sphere flashed once, blindingly white, and then the clearing was empty. Just the night, the wind, the faint rustle of leaves as the silence broke. I staggered back, gasping, my ears ringing. But there was nothing left, not even the scorched marks I had seen minutes earlier. The ground was whole, untouched, as though no craft had ever been there. Only my memory, and something else. When I checked my phone, which had been dead since entering the woods, the screen lit up on its own. No lock screen, no passcode, just a single line of text filling the display. Remember. My stomach twisted and I dropped it onto the ground, but when I picked it up again, it was back to normal. The same wallpaper, the same apps, no sign of the message. Driving home that night, I felt hollowed out, like a part of me had been taken and replaced with something I didn't recognize. Sleep became nearly impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back in that clearing, staring at the pulsing lights, hearing the vibration in my chest. Weeks passed, and I told no one. Who could I tell? Friends would laugh, family would worry, and strangers would dismiss me as another crackpot chasing lights in the sky. So I carried it alone. But the strangeness didn't end there. People began noticing things about me. At work, they said I seemed distracted, distant. Yet when projects came up, ideas flowed out of me faster than I could write them down, solutions to problems I barely understood before. My memory sharpened in ways that startled even me. I could recall phone numbers I'd seen once, conversations word for word, entire pages of text after a single glance. It was as though something had rewired my brain, expanding it, enhancing it. And yet with every improvement came a shadow, an ache behind my eyes, a pressure in my skull like something was waiting, pushing at the edges of my mind. The dreams returned, stronger, more vivid. Not just landscapes now, but journeys. I walked through colossal halls carved out of crystal. I saw maps of stars I couldn't recognize, and every time the triangle of lights hovered above, guiding me. And then, on one particularly restless night, I dreamed I was floating in darkness, surrounded by infinite stars, and the lights approached me again. This time they didn't stop at a distance. They entered me, not physically, but as light sinking into my chest, filling me until I thought I would burst. And with it came the clearest message yet: we are leaving something with you. When I woke from that dream, the words were still echoing in my head. We are leaving something with you. I lay there in the dark, unable to breathe, my chest tight, as if something truly had been placed inside me. My pulse hammered, and every beat seemed louder than the last, like a drum reverberating through my ribs. For a moment, I thought I was dying, that my heart couldn't handle whatever they had given me. But then the pressure eased, and in its place came a sensation I can only describe as clarity. Colors around me seemed sharper, sounds more layered, as if the world itself had shifted into focus. And then, without warning, my phone lit up on the nightstand. I hadn't touched it, no notification had arrived, but the screen glowed with the same word I had seen before: remember. I whispered it aloud, and in that instant the coordinates burned back into my thoughts. Not the same ones as before, but new, a different sequence. I tried to resist, to convince myself I didn't need to follow it, but the pull was overwhelming. By sunrise, I was already on the road. The new location lay deeper into the mountains, a place far from towns or highways, a place few people ever passed through. Hours of winding roads led me to a forgotten trail where I parked and continued on foot. As I climbed higher, the air grew unnaturally still. The forest was silent again, that same unnatural hush, and when I broke through the tree line into a plateau clearing, I froze. They were there. Not just lights this time, but something larger, something I can only call a vessel. It hovered above the ground with no flame, no sound, smooth and seamless like liquid metal shaped into a teardrop. The three orbs circled it like guardians, pulsing in rhythm. My knees nearly buckled, but a calmness washed over me, the same warmth I had felt before. I stepped closer, and the vibrations began again, resonating deep inside me. A panel on the craft rippled open, not like a door sliding, but like light bending, and inside I glimpsed something I will never forget. Figures, tall and luminous, outlines more than bodies, stood in silence. They didn't move as humans do, didn't breathe, didn't even shift, but their presence radiated intelligence, sorrow, and hope all at once. My chest burned with another wave of thoughts not my own, an ocean of meaning that resolved into fragments I could barely contain. We cannot stay. We are hunted. You are not ready, but you will be. The words sank into me like a prophecy. Then the light surged so bright I had to shield my eyes. When I lowered my hand, the vessel was gone. The clearing was empty, silent, untouched, as though it had never existed. Only a circle of flattened grass remained, glowing faintly for a few moments before fading into darkness. I stumbled back to my car in a daze, half certain I had imagined it all, but when I looked at my phone again, there it was, a star map. Not an app, not an image I could delete, but a map burned across the screen, pinpointing constellations I had never seen before. And beneath it, 3 words: we will return. That was years ago, and the truth is I still don't know why they chose me, or what exactly they left inside me. But I do know this: my dreams have not stopped. The visions come stronger every year. The star map updates itself with new paths, new destinations, and I can feel something awakening in me, growing, guiding. Sometimes I wake in the night and find my phone glowing again with that single word: remember. And I do. I remember every light, every vibration, every message. I remember the sorrow of their exile and the weight of their hope. And most of all, I remember their promise: we will return.